Odds are you have probably seen this show before or heard of this show, and it's called The Chosen. And I have heard criticism about people like in this show being racist because they're portraying Jesus as a white man, and was Jesus actually white? I think that we have a lot to consider about this, but to jump right into it, I think that we have pictures all over history portraying Jesus as different colors due to simply the culture that they were in, right? For example, if we look up black Jesus painting, you will see that there were paintings from back then in like Ethiopia, let's say, that portrayed Jesus as a black man. We have certain pictures that are like this maybe, that are depicting Jesus as not only darker than just a white man, but actually being black. Or arguably African-American. I mean, or not African-American, excuse me, but arguably being actually just African, straight up African. And the reason for this is not because these people are racist and they hate white people, which is, I think, oftentimes the kind of claim or criticism that's given to people who agree with, some sort of racist kind of arguments and debates and claims. We see now, during like maybe the Renaissance era or something like that, a bunch of paintings of Jesus being white Jesus with beautiful, long, brown locks of hair and blue eyes. And the question is, did these people actually have this kind of understanding of what Jesus looked like in him being white with brown hair and blue eyes? Well, obviously the answer is no, he did not look like that. Jesus unquestionably did not look like that. I don't think there's any debate about whether Jesus looked like that or not. The question, though, is, are these people being racist for portraying Jesus this way? And the answer to this question is no. You got to figure, today we have culture, we have media, we have news. And first off, I believe that a vast majority of the racism that we see in the world today is solely based upon what the culture preaches to us as racism. Let me just give you a quick example of this. Have you ever found it interesting that whenever you see in an inner city and there was a shooting between two people, you already probably know the color of the person's skin that was talked about in this shooting? At least one of the people. And I still haven't said the color of the person, but you already know the color of the person I'm referring to, which is really upsetting to me. It's really unfortunate that we would have a media that would be trying to preach some sort of narrative to overemphasize something that actually is a genuine problem. Racism is actually a genuine problem. Racism is an actual thing, and it actually needs to be stopped. But to make some massive broad brush claim that everybody, when you're perpetuating that every single person who ever gets shot or shoots somebody is black, that's a horrible, horrible indication that you're giving, and you're actually the racist one for portraying, murder this way, because there's murders that happen every single day that was a white person or two white people together. And you never hear about those stories, very rarely. So the problem oftentimes with these things is just the culture in general. But we can't throw out the baby with the bathwater and just say that racism doesn't exist because of those things, because racism unquestionably still does exist. But does that mean that these guys right here are being racist because this man painted him this way? Well, the answer is no. Like the person who painted this painting is not racist for painting Jesus as a white man. Why is he not racist for doing so? Well, you've got to figure somebody back then who didn't have this media, didn't have all the culture, didn't have cars and stuff that they could drive and fly to other countries, very well had no additional context of other cultures. So they're not even seeing people that are of different skin colors, other ethnicities, other nationalities, and they're painting the only context that they have. It would be like if I told you to paint an alien right now. You're going to more than likely paint a green guy with these big black beady eyes, because that's what and like this like kind of like oval pin-shaped head, because that's what you've always known an alien to look like. You've never seen an alien, but that's what you know an alien to look like. So for us to paint an image and say, you're being racist or alien version of racism because of that is a really, really silly thing to say. No one would think that you're racist or have some sort of favor or ethnical preference because of that. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that the dude who drew this specific painting isn't racist. I don't know who he is. I don't know who painted these pictures. So there's a chance that this dude actually was racist. But my point is because somebody painted something in their own culture and their own understanding as a certain skin color doesn't make them racist. Because, again, they're going off the only basis and context that they have to make a claim like this. So when we go back to The Chosen and say, is The Chosen racist? The answer is, well, maybe, but not for having a Jesus that is portrayed as white. You've got to figure, especially when it comes to art and culture, that we have a lot of challenges that we have to work with when you're trying to find somebody who is the perfect fit for this scene. The second thing that you've got to consider is The Chosen is trying to give a replication or representation of Jesus that's going to get people to be interested in watching a show. And if you see the actor Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus in The Chosen, then you're going to see that he looks a lot like the pictures that you're probably used to seeing, right? So again, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether he should look like that or not, that's a different conversation. But the point is when you see him, you could see how you could assume that he would look like Jesus. And by the way, it's because of these Renaissance era type paintings that we've seen that we have this kind of indication of what he looks like. There's a really, really, really high probability that he looks nothing like this. Like Jesus actually looks nothing like this. First off, again, darker skin color, which by the way, I think that part of this conversation, my point of this video is not to be political, but like, just because somebody has a lighter skin color doesn't make them white, right? And generally, when we're talking about white, most of the times I hear that correlated or paired with white and American, right? And like, again, I don't know where Jonathan Rumi is from. Maybe he's from America. I don't know. But my point is, like, I think you're actually assuming a lot by saying, oh, he's a white, American. So just a side note to just consider is you don't know if he's American or not. Like, he could be from Portugal or Venezuela for all you know. And like, would that still be racist? Most people would say, well, no, because he's not an American and he's not making this claim as an American. So anyways, my point is they're trying to portray Jesus in a way that people will understand. If they had him as a bald man, there's a really low chance that people would even be interested or open to listening to the show because that seems so far from what would be accurate. And again, Jesus may have been bald, but my point is you're confusing people with things like that. So they are choosing and trying to use their artistic liberty to be able to get an image of Jesus that they believe is going to be the most beneficial when it comes to people watching the show, being interested in the show, etc. Also, I should mention, if you look at The Chosen and the people who are in The Chosen, you know that not even remotely close to all of them are white. So it's not like it's a racist thing for them to have that. And I think that this is really the point I want you to get out of this entire video. I think that us as Christians perpetuating, or just people in general, just seeing somebody based upon their skin color and making a claim just based upon their skin color, whether it's a white person, black person, Hispanic person, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. And making a claim based upon solely seeing a skin color is a really, really, really unfortunate thing to do. It would just be no different than me seeing you based upon your sexual preference, or seeing you based upon your weight or your attractiveness level from society's standpoint. If I talked to you and spoke to you from that measure, you would be like, dude, am I not more than my skin color? Am I not more than my sexuality? Am I not more? And by the way, that wasn't my way of saying homosexuality is okay. I'm just saying, like, we don't talk about people and their sexual preference, which is actually the real irony with homosexuality, because I feel like I hear a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus world, they do speak about people in context of their identity be found in their sexuality, which is perplexing to me. But like, if I talk to somebody all the time as the hot person or the ugly person, then now I'm painting an identity on somebody that God never gave them. Whether they are actually by society's or by God's standards, which just doesn't even exist, good looking or not. The point is you're creating some sort of false claim, some made up claim on your own to determine what you believe or your opinion is on somebody. And you're giving them their identity based upon their looks. That's a really silly thing to do, whether it's their skin color or your version or view of their attractiveness level. We as Christians need to make sure we're not doing that. We need to make sure that we're looking at people by the heart, right? When we look at David and Samuel, in the Old Testament, Samuel goes to David's dad and he says, show me all your sons. I'm about to pick out the next king. And he looks at all the sons other than David, because David's dad didn't even let his dad come to that meeting. Or David's dad didn't let David come to the meeting. And Samuel goes to all the sons. He says, none of these are the one. Where's your son at? He said, you've got one more that you're hiding from me. He said, well, it's just David, the shepherd boy. And his response was talking about how all the other brothers, they were strong, handsome, tall. And he says, man judges by outward appearance, but God judges by the heart. We as Christians are commanded to judge people by their heart. Saul in the Old Testament, he was as good looking, handsome, and tall and strong as they came. And he does, from best I can understand, probably will not be in eternity with Jesus one day. David was all the opposite of those things, and he is definitely going to be around Jesus one day, and he will be able to spend eternity with him because of him being a man after God's own heart. Let's stop focusing and nitpicking on people's skin color or specific preferences that something like an artistic show has. And by the way, I'm not backing up or endorsing The Chosen. I'm just saying, like, for you to make a claim on racism based upon this one show is a really, really silly thing to do. I think that we are actually perpetuating racism more by constantly talking about things that aren't racist and calling them racist. So let's focus on Christ crucified. If we're preaching the gospel to people, making that the main thing and keeping that the main thing, we're going to see a whole lot more people come to Jesus versus arguing